Hey, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everybody. Welcome on into the Dragon's Den. My name is Digital Dragon, and I'm a 3D printing variety streamer here on Twitch. What do I mean by a 3D printing variety streamer? Well, I do everything from printer assemblies, modifications to full up printer builds, like most of the ones you see behind me here, to 3D printing cosplays, prototyping, all kinds of stuff. Welcome on in, Creatix Brit, Gulsifer, 491 Phantom. Welcome on in. And speaking of cosplay and other type stuff, I'm also going to be doing some collaboration prints here with Creatix Brit, where we're going to be doing some printed droids to bring to shows this year. So I've been printing out parts for the D0, which is the little unicycle looking droid, as well as I currently have prints going right now for a 40% size chopper, which I think is going to be about like that size. So really looking forward to that. I think I have all the electronics with spares in my Amazon cart right now, getting ready to hit, buy on them. We do like our coffee here on stream as well. Yeah. So welcome on in, everybody. So we've been working on, during the weekdays, we've been working on putting together our Micron Plus. The Micron is a printer for ants. It's a scratch build. Some of the printers for ants are redesigned Voron 0 printers. In this case, the Micron is a Voron 2.4, like these two right here, just scaled down smaller to a 180 by 180 build volume, and using the 1515 frame size like a Voron V0. So we've been working on putting that together here on stream during the week. And then on the weekend, that's where we're starting to work on our bigger size printer builds. And we just finished another Voron 2.4 build for one of our subscribers, Chewy. And I'm trying to think if we're going to start the Trident 350 build this Saturday, or if we're going to take Fey Dragon, which is this Voron 2.4 here, down, start taking the panels off and taking the gantry out so that we can tear the gantry apart and rebuild it. And the reason I need to rebuild that is I have a kit sitting up here. It's this long cardboard box that is a carbon fiber gantry. So a little bit larger. This is the gantry on the Micron, but it's these pieces here in carbon fiber. So we'll take all the linear rails off. We'll build the carbon fiber gantry pieces, put the linear rails back on, add the motors, the whole shebang. And then when we do that, we'll switch from the Voron TAP, the printed version of Voron TAP, to a Chaotic Labs CNC TAP V2. And all of that is just to make the gantry itself lighter, which means we should be able to get a little more speed out of it. Hopefully we're going to make it stiffer because of the carbon fiber rods, and just get it working a little bit better. It's already a beautiful printer. It prints fabulous. But we can never leave things well enough alone. And welcome on in. For those of you that may also be hanging out with Royal Nomi, you'll know this, but one of our good friends, Pez Liz, is currently dealing with some family stuff going on. Her father just recently passed away, and so she had to take some emergency flight back home for that. And when that happened, apparently the fine Canadian Airlines that she flew on lost all of her luggage. So if you can, pop over to Royal Nomi stream. She does have a link to Pez Liz's PayPal account, or you can go out to Pez's stream page, look at the About section, and get the link where you can send her a tip. And even if it's just $1 or $2, $5, anything that will get help so that I can take some things off of mine, I would appreciate it. And thank you all for thinking about other people in the community at this time. So welcome on in, everybody. We are going to get back started on the Micron. So I said at the end of the last stream that it was weird that we used bearing stacks in certain areas, like these front two idlers, because normally this is going to have the belt teeth facing this idler, and normally that's where you'd want a toothed idler. So I took these out on one side, and I was going to try and install the toothed idlers that came with this kit, and I don't know if they would have worked with the Rev 1 parts, but these are the Rev 1.2 parts, and they do not fit. They would not fit without having to increase the overall size, which would have meant taking all of the idlers out and adding additional spacers, which I didn't think would have been a good thing either. So I went ahead and just left it at the bearing stack. Hey, Hybrid Robotics, welcome on in. And so because of that and doing some reading, I've decided I'm not going to deviate from the manual. I'm going to try and build it exactly to the manual, which means before we mount the gantry, we're going to need to run the belt. And part of that is I have a lot of issues getting belts around the front idlers to begin with on a standard 2.4 or a Trident. And I'm sitting here looking at this going, well, if it's not in the printer, it's going to be easier to pull a belt through, send it through, and bring it back around. So I'm going to try and at least get the belts on here and loosely attached to the, I'm not going to pull them tight, but I'm going to get them attached to the Boop carriage, the X-Carriage for Boop. And that'll just provide it well enough that we can then flip it over and start following the process to do the D-belts and get that part ready. So with that, let me switch over to this screen. And we're going to follow the instructions here on running the belt. So it's talking about the B belt, and your Core XY printers, the way somebody explained it to me is it's like their sheet. They go bob, right? So your B motor is the left, your A motor is the right. So B and A. So your B belt gets routed first. And based on our instructions, the B belt is the lower of the two belts. That means we'll be going through the lower pulleys when we put our belts in. And we'll go through and we'll do the same type of thing. Bear with me one second as I try and, so I've got two different pieces of belt here. To make sure that that's all I have is just those two. A cable thing, T-tape. Yep, I just have the two packs of belts. And they're different lengths. And I'm trying to figure out if this actually has, I'm wondering if they have, oh yeah, there we go. I think this pack is the 4 Z belts pre-cut. Yeah, so this is 4 belts here. So these are my Z belts, which means the other 2 belts will be my XY belts or AB belt. Hey, thank you for the raid, BC, aka Royal Nomi. Welcome on in, folks. Welcome on in. Hutch's Makerspace, Shenanigans, Darth Gollum, Dandelion, the Royal Nomi, K2 Kevin. Welcome on in. I did make an announcement and told people that you had a link on your channel. I don't have that link. If you guys want to post that link, K2 Kevin or Royal Nomi, feel free to post the link for Teslas, and we will see. Hopefully other folks would like to contribute some. Poity, welcome on in. You're building one of these soon? That's awesome. Yeah, so this is the Micron. Hold on one second, Poity. So I put a Fadus tungsten carbide nozzle on the Rapido 2.0 in the K3. And I don't know. I mean, how are these prints looking? The interior details. I know it's black. Let's see if we can get that part of the logo to show up some. Yes, it is a black box corner piece. And this, of course, this was a side that was facing down, so I'm probably going to do the heat gun trick to relieve some stress on that. But this is polycarbonate carbon fiber Prylene off of Amazon. Thank you, Royal Nomi. And this thing is printing beautifully. So you're building one of what soon, Zombie? A black box or a Micron? I thought you just finished your Micron. Or are you talking about a K3? Hey, Traxman, welcome on in. Thank you for the follow. Yeah, the K3 is an awesome printer. It's printing pretty darn good right now as well. The Beacon H was really nice, and doing input shaper with it was awesome. So, oh, the Micron. Okay, your heater pad just came in today. Gotcha. So nicely in this Formbot kit, they do provide cables cut to length. They're probably cut a little bit long, but they are cut to length, which will make belting a lot easier. And they're actually identical length too. So that's even better. As we know, we really like to keep our belt lengths very similar. And these are genuine Gates power grip belts. So, yeah, whoops, really? Stop that. Okay, so we've got our belts here. We're going to go ahead and route our belts. And like I said, we're just going to use our Boop carriage just to kind of hold it in place. I'm not going to tighten things down yet. Let me just grab a couple of parts out of here. Grab those 2 belt clamps. I did not get to the Z-belts yet, Zombie. We're going to put this on. Then next we'll be adding this onto the printer with the Z-belts. And yes, I see why you say I'm probably going to have to take the motors back off to be able to route the Z-belts. Because normally on a 2.4, you can route it directly underneath through the leg and then bring it back up through the leg. So we'll deal with that as soon as we get this. I decided I was going to try and follow the manual. And here's the other thing I did as well. You may remember on the last stream, I said that these inner pulleys should be tooth idlers. So I was going to take these bearing stacks out and put the tooth idlers in. I can't. The tooth idlers are too tall. So they must work with the 1.1 parts or the 1.0 parts. And same thing on the Z rails. And the manual does say very clearly, use the F623 bearings in those spots. So that's what we're going to do. So, let me see what I got here. That. It all goes on that side. This mount this side. This will go this side. I'm just trying to think through the process. It's been a minute since I've done one of these. Like when we did the salad fork, and I've slept since. Yeah, it'll be pretty easy to get to it. So the full, yeah, there's something in the spacing that if we use those tooth idlers that they sent in the kit, they just will not fit. And you're definitely not going to fit them with washers. So you're basically going to be compressing the inside of the bearing races against plastic, which is not going to give you a very good bearing motion system. And I think that's all I need is those 2 there. Oh, I'm going to need to put one there as well, and that'll be for the one for the rail. So what my plan is for this printer, and this is why I may do the 2.4 upgrades before we start the Trident on Saturday, is, well, the 2.4, I'm going to take the gantry apart and I'm going to swap out the printed tap for the CNC tap V2, which means I will have the optical sensor, the linear rails, and stuff like that I can then put on Boop. So I need to do that on Saturday so that I can recover the parts I need to make Boop or Micron work, so that we can continue on this build as well. So that, are you kidding me? I love it when things like that. Which one? I have a runaway screw. So, un momento, por favor. So yeah, the 2.4 upgrades are going to move the carriage over to the Chaotic Labs carbon fiber frame, and that'll also let us pull the printed tap parts out to reuse on the Micron Boop here. And we will also, while we're doing those changes, we will put the put the touch screen and make it a clipper screen, and that'll give me a known working standard Mini 128/64 display to put over on Tues build. So so these are 1.2 parts zombie, and I've used washers, on both sides of the F 623 bearings. So it has solved it for me. And yes, hybrid robotics. This is Micron Plus, so this is the 180 by 180 by 180 version. Hoyt's saying you're a Duet 3 with RotoCan and their Eddy scanner for something different. So does Duet have an Eddy scanner now as well? Just like everybody come up with an Eddy scanner? Did you look at the beta files for R1? Hoyt, was that to me or somebody else? Yeah. Well, Beacon isn't compatible with RepRap firmware. I'm assuming that electrically it's compatible with Duet. It's not compatible with RepRap firmware, and I believe you can run Clipper on Duet board. But okay, so Duet did a Eddy scanner for Roto. Gotcha. And so I've got a few things. So I'm going to be rebuilding my Tivo Tarantula as something. I don't know if I'm going to rebuild it semi-stock and then go from there. And I say semi-stock because regardless, it's going to get a Micro Swiss NG. So the NG extruder and hot end and all that good jazz. But I also have a Revo Roto and 2 Orbiter 3s here in the Dragon Den. So I will be needing to put those on something to test out and try them out. And I'm thinking a good, I just need a good basic platform to do that on. And yeah, you love yourself some RepRap firmware. So my first, so Evil Diesel, when he built his first printer, which happened to be a Castle Mini Delta, um, he did RepRap firmware and a Duet board on it. So that was my first experience with Duet. I've just never done a Duet and RepRap firmware. So it will be new to me when I do the black box build, but that's just one more thing for me to learn. So that'll be fun and exciting. So what I'm doing here is I'm just running a screw through these, and it's going to take out the plastic, I'll say the plastic plug that kind of got pushed out or pushed in where the threads would have been. So that little piece of plastic would have caused some issues potentially with fouling of the threads if you didn't go through and do this to clear it. So it's always a good time afterwards to come in and do this to clear your threads. And I may have pushed these down a little bit further than needed to, but I definitely wanted to make sure I had some good thread engagement on these. Um, I've got plenty of extruders. Really, the thing for me right now is, oh, sorry about that, what to install or mount a like an orbiter, a smart orbiter 3 on, right? Because it's an all-in-one tool head, where the standard orbiter 2 was an extruder that you can then add to any tool head. This is an all-in-one, both of them are all-in-one packages. So you really need something that lends itself to an all-in-one package. I don't know, maybe a Rook, maybe a Bugaboo. There's 2 options right there. Okay, so we need to run our belts. And the way I do it is, this of course is the top of our gantry. So I will make it so that if you see a belt, you'll be able to read that it is a Gates belt. For no other reason than, we got to make certain people in our community happy. All of our linear rail badging needs to be in the right spot. Otherwise, it may actually impede performance. I believe that's the saying that we get from Steve. So I've slid the belt from the back forward because it loops around here, loops around this front idler, and comes over. So I always try and start from a motor position just because it's easier for me to remember which way my belt needs to be going as I hit certain pieces. And this will allow me to come in here and use a tool to kind of guide this belt around some. Never really know which is the easiest way to get these, but front idler pulleys are always the pain in the butt for me. Turn you. There we go. I see a belt. So once again, we're going through the lower pulleys on this side. So we want to make sure that we're going around the lower pulley, around this front pulley, which is the lower pulley, and around this front pulley. Thought it was going to be a, and see, I ran my belt backwards. So your belt goes around this rear pulley, and that's why I always tend to start back here, and then I still screwed myself up. Do this, and we'll work on looping it around that pulley, back out the back. And that's why normally I start at the motors, is so that way I'm actually getting my belts going the right way, and I don't screw myself up like that. Thanks for the lurk, Royal Nomi. Oh God, yes, those little tiny connectors that you have to push down. The I used to have to open up laptops and actually remove those, and then we would hot glue over the connector so that they wouldn't be connected because of working in secure work centers. We would have to physically disconnect the radio devices. We'd have to disconnect those antennas. Okay, so that's now run. Now we'll bring this around the back, around this side. Once again, making sure that we're lining up in that lower pulley stack. And then when we come up here, we'll have to Kind of loop this around that way. And there we go. So that'll be our first belt. So it's actually down there, right? And what I'll do is, so we've got our 2 heat sets in, and we've got our 3 M3 nuts here. These 3 will be to mount the vertical linear rail, and then these 2 go for the belt clamps. So we'll go ahead and clamp our belt on one side, and then we'll be ready to ooga dooga. That's pretty. Be ready to get these crimped on here shortly. Don't forget the KB3D all-in-one utensil. It's an unusually strong magnet. It can be used as a flathead screwdriver. It's definitely usable for your belts and routing your belts, especially on the K3 and other systems where your slots for your belts are going to be fairly tight and you need to be able to get a little bit pushed through so that you'll have something to grab on the front to pull your belt through. This is a good tool to get this job done. Just like that. And what we'll do is we'll route the other belt and we'll do the same thing. We'll pull through the same amount of belt. And in fact, we'll go ahead and get this one started. So once again, belts are going to come around on this side. Right here. See how easy or hard routing this belt will be since we've got our end stop there. Okay. We're not really tightening these down, so we're not having to really look at getting solid belt tension and all of that right now. We're just trying to get the belt routed physically around, and we will work on getting everything tightened up as we work our way through here. Because I'm afraid of actually racking the frame before I get it mounted. So I want to get it mounted, make sure that everything is good to go, and then we'll work on trying to tighten these belts fully and finally. I just want to get them loosely. Okay. So we've got the bottom belt through. We're going to work on pushing the top belt through. We'll get about the same number of teeth exposed. We'll fold them over and we'll put a screw in there. And tighten that down. Yeah. Luckily, my wife has 2 or 3 of them, so they have come in pretty handy. Hot glue guns, you know, when you work with printers like Creality, and you're like, oh my God, are you serious? And then you actually and then you actually need your connections to stay put, and you're like, oh wow, the hot snot does work. Sorry, I'm trying to look real fast and look over here. Oof. This is the actual tap manual. And as we build this, we're going to kind of mirror and mimic the tap manual a little bit, which is going to be nice because I'm sure there was a couple of other places that I needed to put heat sets, but luckily I think I got all the ones on the carriage itself done. What I'm just looking for is what screws to use for the belt clip. Theory, that's great. Thank you. Build the darn thing. Seriously, belt clip. Well, screws do I use for the belt clip? Good gracious. And of course, this version doesn't even list. Yeah, Boop. There isn't a true manual for Boop. There's a step file. And I was trying not to actually have to pull up the step file. And Boop pretty much says, hey, yeah, do everything like Voron TAP. So it's pretty intuitive. It's probably like an M3x8 would do the trick. So we'll work with an 8. Eight or a 6 will work. I'm sure. I mean, you're going through a bit of a printed part through, or, some belt and into a screw or into a nut. So not like you need to have a ton of length. Now all I'm trying to do is just make sure that my belt's straight as much as possible. Yeah, that's perfect. Perfect, except one of them is a tooth shorter than the other. So let me fix that. And I'll trim off any excess a little bit later. Like I said, I'm just trying to get these initially done so that it's, I'll say, attached enough that I can run the Z-belt here. And as with anything, when you're trying to run your belts, make sure that any of your tensioning mechanisms, like your front idlers, are fully in their loosened position so that you get the maximum amount of travel once you get these things tightened up a bit. This is kind of slow going. You're just basically trying to move it one tooth at a time. And you want it to be fairly tight so it doesn't pull loose and pull out on you. You start to get an edge and then possibly use your forceps to clamp on and see if you can't pull it forward. Sorry, folks, for not chatting too much. It's just trying to work on a belt here. Trying to focus basically so I don't stab myself with a screwdriver on stream. Bleeding might be content, I don't know. But my wife kind of gets mad at me when I do that. Okay. Now, as you start to get these tight, you want to go around and make sure that you're definitely writing in all of your bearing stacks and that you're not writing up on a lip. You want to make sure that all of your belts are in your bearing stacks and lined up appropriately. Both those and the ones on the front as well. To include your your belts right here on your front idlers, because if any of these are riding up on your bearing stacks, your number of teeth exposed and stuff like that will be off and different. So I pulled these a little tight. I'm not trying, I don't want to bow this. To kind of mitigate from that, you can bring this all the way forward, and I can already see I've got a little bit of racking in my system, and teeth-wise, I'm off. So we'll have to fix that. Once again, I'm trying not to rack this, and I'm trying to not worry about fully de-racking it right now either. So these are close. One more tooth on the bottom belt. I'll have to go through and count these, but we're good enough for now that what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the other belt clamp on, and this will be a good enough initial tension to allow us to hang the gantry. And get our gantry up on the printer itself. I think it's like M3x6 screws, maybe M3x8s for the mounting it. So we'll run a couple of M3x8s in there. We won't do all four. We'll just do a couple, once again, just to get it on there loosely while we go ahead and mount our gantry. Thanks for the alert, Gulsifer. Yeah, I figured the belts were going to be just as much fun as they were on a larger build, which is not that fun at all. So, well, it's not that it's hard, it's just fiddly and therefore a pain in the tuchus. So, our gantry belts are on. We'll have to work on, like I said, checking for racking and de-racking. That's actually looking pretty good. And it'll be easier to tell that once we get everything mounted in the printer, because we'll have 4 other points of contact to validate from. So come back over to here. We've got the B belt. We got the A belt. We've got our initial carriage mount. Like I said, it's not fully tensioned yet, but we're good. Now Z belts. And when you do the Z belts, you're doing the bottom side. So we're going to flip the gantry upside down so that we can install the lower belt clamps. So we'll need our other 4 belts and 4 more of our belt clamps. So, and all of this is 6mm 2GT belt. So bottom side. So we outside to the inside. So we start out, we're going to line up the teeth at the outer edge of our plate here. We'll put our piece on. Now we have to remember to load a couple of M3 nuts in here so that we can then tighten them down. Excuse me. Problems. Clear those out. And we'll need M312s. And as you can see, we're only going to put one on, and that's because the other one is going to go through the Z mount up into this part. So we'll only be putting one of these on. And then the other one, like I said, we'll get our Z mount part. We'll slide our M3 nut in there, hook it in, get it lined up with the farther hole. Then we're going to take our belt, and like I said, we're going to line it up right in the grooves that are in the printed piece as close to the edge as we can. We're going to take our cover, make sure we can see the little eyebrows because the underside's going to have that little bit of an undercut to it. Replace that smiley face out. Line it up on the holes, and then we'll insert our M3x12 screw. Screw that down. So we're, like I said, we're only screwing it down on one side, and that'll be the one clamp done. The other side over here, we're going to do the same exact thing. We're just further back. We'll put in one of our nuts. To get our belt lined up here as best we can in a straight line. Right up to the edge. We'll grab one of our face plates, make sure it's oriented in the right direction. We're going to go to the inner of the two screw holes. Tighten it down. There's two done. Now we'll come over and we'll do the other side. We'll line it up in the grooves, close to the edge as possible. So the belt's laying on there straight. Get our happy face, put in there. The angry face. Then last belt. Stephen Poole, welcome on in. Royal Nomi, back. Lined up there. We'll get our belt on here. Really? Okay. So we've now got all four of our belts attached to at least one. The inside edge of all four of these teeth are facing down. Insert M320 and two M3 washers in the Z joint in preparation of the gantry install. Now install it in the printer. It's easiest if you tilt the gantry to the side to get it in. And then it talks about hanging it from zip ties and then mounting your four trucks. And I will say we're not going to do that. We'll do something a little bit different. But I'll show you what I'm going to do here once I get this up. So what I tend to do on all of my Voron builds is I will put a stopper in. I will get my trucks sitting on the stopper, and then I will mount them right that way with using the stoppers as in stop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 5th one out all the way down. And that will allow me to put in a stopper. And they'll all be at relatively the same height. Hybrid. All right. Take it easy, Hybrid Robotics. Have a good one. Thank you for stopping in. There, Ramon. Now, let me see about putting this back in. Do not know how these keep popping out of their out of their nuts. This one fell out too. Well, that sucks. Where it went. Or when it went, for that matter. So give me un momento while I go and figure out what's. Oh, that's because it's still in there. It just hasn't fallen out all the way yet. There we go. Angry idlers. Okay, so now that we've got all of those out, we're going to use 4 of our bump stops. We're just going to raise these up, put that where the screw head was. So if the screw head's there, it won't fit. That's why you got to take the screw head out to get that bump stop in there. And getting them all at the same height will let me bring the gantry in and set it down and give me plenty of room to work. There we go. So we've got the hole back here. So this is the back side of our printer. We're going to take our gantry with all 4 belts hanging on it. We're going to flip it back over so it's the right way and all 4 belts are dangling down. Slide this over so it's a little bit closer for you. We're going to bring this in. Play twist and turn. Play. There we go. May have to go lower. Yep, I'm gonna have to actually go lower with my things. So go 3 more lower. Okay. Now let's give that a try. We're going to take our gantry, slide it back in here. Hopefully now we have the height that we can get it spun around. Come on. Seriously, what am I? Drop that one down, bring all of these around it up. Catching it. Figure out what I'm catching on here. Put back in there. There. So all 4 of our Z motors, or excuse me, our corners are now in and supported. They're not connected yet. So that's where we just need to work to kind of shift and wiggle. Now the fun part is we need to get some nuts up in here so we can actually get our M20 screws installed. So this ought to be fun. This is probably where having a one of the no slide nut pieces would be an advantage. We've got screws placed in here, spin around 180. Kind of do the same thing. We'll lift this back up and try and feed in, or actually I could probably do it with tweezers. I just put my tweezers. side. The other side. Now the fun part is going to be how do we get these in there without throwing the other ones out like I just did. Slamming. Okay, and I don't even know which ones popped out. So I've got two that just popped out. I don't know if they were in the front. I'm going to assume that they were in the front here. To get the angle to do one, I in essence push the other ones out of the way. Out of their slot. So I'm wondering, I'm going to have to play with angles. It would almost be easier if I had this laid over and I had a long box sitting here that this was sitting on and I was coming at it from top to bottom, huh? I think that makes more sense of a plan because once again, gravity's working with me then instead of against me. Look, and I'm dropping nuts everywhere. Okay, those were gone. Yep, all four nuts were out anyhow. So 1, 2, okay. Kind of my thought then was set it upside down, get all these up and out of the way. Luckily, we have a long Fabrico box here. We can set in the middle, and Our back is here, so that's the side where our motors will go. So we'll basically come in and sit kind of like this. And no, wrong, that's upside down. Gantry will sit in here like this. Then what we'll do is we'll work on raising the two ends up, putting our nuts in, securing the back ones, and then we can use the fact that our I have not ran my Z belts yet, Zombie. It's kind of hard to run the Z belts when there's nothing to hold it up. I don't have the Z belts fully locked in on the one side because this mounts to your Z rails. Definitely kind of a pain in the tuchus. So where are you tonight? Why did you all along? I think is there. That goes there. It would be a M3 by 20 with 2 washers. Because through the large gear, got to do that before the gantry is installed. Through the large gear. As this goes in there. It's 2 washers. Then comes down into the hole. And we'll get 6. Pete, welcome on in. That's locked. On this side, oh, now I got my screw showing up over here on this side. That actually pushed into place. Two more of our washers. Another M3 by 20 screw. Two washers. Line it up with a hole and screw it on down. So how you been, Pete? Hopefully you're doing well. Okay. That looks like it's got more space on this side than the other side did. Weird. Grumble, grumble, grumble. Uh-oh. Okay, so two down. Now let's see if we can get a little bit of space in here to put our front two nuts in so we can get them lined up. It should be the same thing for the front where we use two washers and an M20 screw. That M20 is coming down from we say the top, but it's actually the bottom of the carriage here. Goes through the ABEC bearing that we have in there. Add our two M3 washers. Yeah, we'll have to see how this works out, zombie. Hoping it works out well. Yeah, I hope it works out well, and I just missed that for that nut completely. So worked out well that time. Hey, Russ, thank you for the subscribe. Sorry I missed that. 2 spools of filament. Yeah, filament always works. That's back out. Grab these 2 washers. Them over there where they're out of the way. And we'll have to try and figure out why. Where our screw? Okay, our screw just went towards the front. We push that back in. And I can't get that. Centered there. And we'll try this again. Back in. Okay, Maker My Nexus, aka DB3D Dan. How's it going, my friend? Doing well. We're trying to install our gantry here. Hey, that felt like it fit into something, so that's good. This is a pleasant exercise in frustration. Is that how we should call this? We are trying to hang a gantry on a 180 build. And yeah, it's just fun. Because we've got to put screws into M3 nuts. And like any good Voron build, our M3 nuts are free floating. So we stand a chance of trying to put them in there and they just do not go in the location that we expect them to. And then we're putting an M320 screw in there and a couple of 3mm washers underneath. Work. Twice now. Work. Know where that washer went, so I'm gonna have to get another one. Well, yeah, that would be great. I should have used the nut holders. I started to, then they were a pain in the butt, so I took them back out. I should have. Remind me to definitely do that when I get to doing the V0 rebuild. So many new and fun fiddly items on this build. Yeah, I kind of enjoy the salad fork a little bit better, the Trident. Working on drywall, are you renovating still? Okay, so the bottoms are in there. Let's go ahead and get our 5 screws put back into our linear rails. Now that we got the stoppers out of there. Because what we're going to do is leave it like this and route the belts through the bottom, through the top. That'll make life a little bit easier, especially since Zombie's saying we got to take the motors off to get the belts run initially. And Dan, I have not seen anything from Da in response to my last email. Don't know if you've heard anything from him, but I have not. Hey, Westry, how's it going? This? It's snowing again? Oh, man. Peeling drywall in the kitchen. Well, yeah, that'll be a fun. So our belts will come down, go around from outside to inside, and then back down. So yeah. Now I see what the comment was. Probably going to be easier to pop these out. Pop that motor out. See how we can route this through here. And also see if I can't figure out how to get you a view of kind of what I'm having to deal with. Possible. Boy, this is going to be fun. I have to try and pre-curl the belt. Yeah, I have a feeling, Zombie, that this manual could definitely use a slight bit of revisions. Dude, I don't even know how. It's almost like it needs to have some type of drill through cape or like a hole right here that we could use to push the belt around. No bueno, huh? Yes, normally when you're building a 2.4, you're able to pass the belt completely through the bottom and then back down and around. That is so not the case on this build right now. Get it in there, I get on the other side of the belt, but there's no way to like get it. Say that, and then I finally get it to come around where I can grab it. Ooh, there we go. That's painful. Thanks for the lurk, Zombie. Appreciate it. Ooh, that is about painful. Okay, so let me see if I can kind of show you all what we're up against. So you've got to come up underneath the panel, right? So you got a ways to go, and then there is the belt that goes up around the pulley. You can't get to it from the other side, right? The other side is solid, so there's no way you can get to it and guide it. And that's why Zombie's saying you really need to try and at least get your belts around that pulley before you mount this foot. And definitely before you mount the motors, because with the motor in the way, there's no way you can get in there with any tools to try and fish it around at all. That's kind of a fun time. Okay, so we've got that belt down and pulled through and loose. So we can work on that. Now I'm going to go ahead and put this back in place. We'll move on to the next motor. Let's go to a film festival. Got canceled. Well, that stinks. Hey, Ozzy. How's it going, my friend? Welcome on in. And pinching this belt some. Tighten these down. Since I'm kind of lined up this way, I'll do this one and then we'll turn around and do the other two. Well, I hope all is going well for you, Ozzy. I think we're all doing fairly well, all things considered. Fighting with belts and fun things like that right now. That looks like the winning trick right there, which is push the belt up against the wall with the tool. And then that gives me, because what happens is you start pushing on the belt and it hits something at the top and then it bends down low. So by using a tool to push it against the side wall of the motor or the foot, when you're pushing that up against here, as you start to push from the bottom up or use your tool to lever it up, then it will kind of go up and around the pulley, which makes life a little bit easier. So now we'll need to put our D motor back on. Get the belt lined up and get our M3 screws started. Then we'll put some tension on it. The wound is slowly healing. Well, slowly healing is good. It'd be great if it was healing rapidly, but not everything that happens rapidly as far as healing is necessarily good. So I'm glad that it's healing up. Okay, so that's 2 belts down. I'm going to turn this 180 degrees so that we can get to the other 2 belts relatively easily, or at least in the same manner. And Dan, I'm not sure if you heard my comment about Da. Haven't heard a response from my last Twitter ping. Wasn't sure if he had reached out to you. Make sure you grab the right belt. Come up from the back and possibly use a flashlight or a phone to help you guide things or see as you're guiding things. Like I said, we're just trying to, once again, use the teeth of the belt as a lever point or a tool of some sort to kind of reach around and work it up in there. And then you should be able to get it to go up and come around the top like that. And then you take this end and feed it back through and down. So you get it to come down here, and then you can pull it through. Yeah. Get our motor lined back up on the belt. Get the belt lined up in the motor. Get our 2 screws. All right, thanks, Dan. Well, I know he was, out on a trip, so I'm trying to be respectful of time and stuff. I'm just, I guess, looking for just acknowledgement that my note was received and that was seen. You darn little booger snot. Remember when you remove your motors and put them back that you want one of your M3 nuts between the foot and the Z motor, because that's going to be used to mount the cover plate that goes over the motor spindle, that little accent piece you see on 2.4s. So just go through and make sure that you've got a nut visible there. Now, I may not have one here, so I'll have to fix that. Take this around again. Wait, nope, never mind. Oh, that's awesome, Ozzy. Yeah, that would be a big fear is, having to lose a leg or a limb of any sort. So good news. Glad to hear that you're going to be able to keep your leg. Use my light force here and one of my wrenches. Once again, grab the tool or grab the belt and just kind of work the belt up a little bit at a time, up and around the pulley. go. Route it through a bit and take this and run it back down below. And make sure you get lined up on the pulley. Okay, so the light there. Now it looks like I didn't get a, yeah, I messed up over here. So I'm gonna loosen this motor again. Just make sure that I get a M3 nut between the foot and the motor mount. Little one over there. Okay. So we've got our belt started around the bottom. We need to go around the top. And I'll do that on one of these. So we've come out of our belt hole or what have you, and or from behind our belt piece up from the outside to the inside, and then our belt is going to go through the slot in our gantry piece here. Go through said slot. Catching on there as to why it's not going. There we go. And then it's going to go around our idler. Let me bring you guys in a little bit closer so you can see what I did here. So our belt comes out, goes up around the pulley, back down, through the slot and the gantry, down around our lower pulley, and we got to sit here and route that around. And we'll pull that tight, and then this is what will come and get attached to this belt piece here. Okay. What we'll do is we'll get all three of these kind of routed, and then we will work on popping our gantry up. I probably should have left those screws out so we could have rested our gantry here and made it a little bit easier, but we'll have to work our gantry around slowly. So I'll get all of my belts down and around our top pulleys. Daddy Wazzy, how's it going? You've gotten spoiled with printers. Yeah, you got bamboos now, and you're starting to get rid of all those kaiwus and focus and everything else, huh? Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just work on gently rotating this around. Move our box. And I want to move my gantry down slowly. Take up the slack. Oops. Taking our belt slack up some. Get our box back underneath here. Give us some support. This will allow us to get our belts lined up, kind of like that. Okay. So we want to make sure that our belts are lined up on the pulleys, that we've got a good deal of our slack out. And then we're going to take these off, route our belts underneath. And actually, we don't take them all the way off unless we have to. I believe they tell us to loosen them and feed the belts through. We do like that and make sure that our belts, we don't want it doesn't have to be super tight, right? We'll fix our belts to the right tension. We just want our belt coming through. Loosen the screws, pull the belt, and it wants us to actually come up through this clamp piece. So, yeah, don't know how the hell that's going to happen easily without taking these things completely off. Completely off. And just be aware that you don't want these to be super, super tight because you have the ability to adjust your belts, and you need to be able to adjust your belts to get them all to relatively the same tension. So if you make one of your belts way too tight, you probably won't have the ability to get them all to the same tension. Or if you got 2 or 3 that are fairly tight and one that's just way, way loose, it's going to be a pain in the butt to get them all figured out to the right level. Okay, and we're just going to leave that there for the time being. And we'll do that on all 4 sides. So we're going to loosen this up, and then we'll do the belt tension on. We'll get our belt run through the mouth on this side. Yeah, I keep thinking about a bamboo, but I'm not sure if it's the printer for me or a printer for me. Because I tend to build them. So having a printer that's sort of already all there, I mean, it's nice because I wouldn't have to think about building it. I would have the multicolor option from day one, of course. Yeah, I do like to build them. Okay, so there's 2 down. So we're going to turn it around, and we'll do the same thing over here. We'll start by loosening these up all the way. Feed our belt through that mouth. Sure that we're pretty straight. Come down and start trying to figure out our tension. So building can be more fun. There is a time when just hitting print and go is nice. So, I mean, that's always, I mean, that's the trade-off, right? Can I hit print and go? Yes. Awesome. Great. Then I'll hit print and go. Hey, Aaron, how's it going? Welcome on in, my friend. Long time no see. We're working on the Micron here, just trying to get our Z belt run. I will say that doing the Micron is a tad bit more fiddly than doing a 2.4, if I have to say so. Yeah. Whoopsie. I go find that screw that just went flying, so hopefully it's readily visible down here. That, and I don't crack my head on the way back up. So Aaron, I got something over here I need to show you that you'll probably like. Let me get this screw lined up and in here. Unscrew the Revo on the menu and clear it. Okay. Yeah, the nice thing there is, you can cut the filament. So Westry, you can cut the filament out of the top, like pull the PTFE tube out, cut the filament, unscrew the nozzle, and you can pull all that filament through. I don't know. Sort of like either one of these. And then what you can do is gently hold on to it with a pair of pliers, hit it with a heat gun, and warm it up. Like I would probably say, grab it right here with pliers, heat gun, warm it up, pull this out. Now, if you need to, you can go in and clean it, right? But hold it at this spot right here, which is where your little silicone sock would be. Hold it there, heat it up with a heat gun down here in the hot end range. Pull this out, and then let it cool down. You can put it back in, heat it up, and manually run some filament through them. Yeah, I'm not sure if a hair dryer will get up there. Now, look at how nice these printed. These are some of the parts for the black box build. And these are printed in Trilene off of Amazon, polycarbonate carbon fiber reinforced. This is PCCF blend. They definitely need a hardened nozzle for this. But this stuff is printing gorgeous. And these prints are coming off of the K3. Of course, this is the bottom part. It's not as shiny black because it's got some heat stress on it from popping it off. So that's probably just, hit it with a heat gun, and that should go away just like it would on ABS and stuff. So I've got parts for a Deodroid, a 40% chopper build that I'm doing with Creatix Brit, and oh wow, that's hot. looser than I thought. And a what's I working on? I got prints going for Dio. I got prints going for the chopper build, and I'm printing parts now for Black Box. I've got all the base parts done for the 350 Trident. Well, that was awesome. Now what I need to do for that is look at the extra parts, I'll say, that come with it. And by extra parts, I mean the sorry, brain farting real fast. By extra parts, I mean the like it comes with lights and ERCFA and stuff like that. So I need to figure out if there's any other parts that I need to print. But I've got everything to actually get started on that build. Now, what we're going to do is on Saturday, my initial thought was to start the Trident, but I think what I need to do instead, darn it, is work the 2.4 rebuild. So my Bay Dragon, my first 2.4, we're going to take the gantry apart and rebuild it using the Chaotic Labs carbon fiber kit, because I'm going to need the parts off of it for TAP, or I'm sorry, for Boop. Because when I rebuild it, I'm going to remove TAP from it and install a Chaotic Lab CNC TAP. Right now it's running a printed Voron TAP Rev 8. So I just need to swap that out. And that will give me the parts I need for Boop for this, for the gantry. And then also the, we'll be ready to go on our Trident build. And then, like I said, we're printing parts for Black Box now. So as soon as I get main parts for Black Box, I can start that build. I can technically get started on it now because I've got I've got all the parts for the tool heads. So if I really wanted to, I could start with tool heads, but I'd much rather do the build in sequence of the manual. Especially since it's basically the, I'm one of the first beta testers of the full kit in the wild. So Boydie, did you get the updated plates with the plastic bits for BB? The updated plates. So I had ordered the water blocks, and well, these are the actual mounts. These are the water blocks, and I've got 3 for Revo and 1 for standard M6, so I'd be able to use various different nozzles. Yeah, these are the tool plates with the cuts in them, and I got the plastic parts. I ordered. He added 3 of the FDM kits. I bought 3 of them, so I still need at least 1 more, and that'll give me 4 tools. In fact, he said these were one of the last ones that got the black box etching before his before he broke his pecker. So these, we pop one of these out. So those are the horizontal lines that you see there are just CNC tooling marks, and they've got the black box laser etching on them. And this is one of the last ones that got done before he killed his laser pecker. So you have a similar, okay, and Turtle's doing the newer etching. Cool. Yeah, I did 4 because he said that there may be other non-FDM tool heads available. So I only did 4, and that'll leave me an option of, doing a non-FDM tool head. And then I'm going to open this up, but I need to not do it. Hold on a second. I don't want to dox myself. Okay. So this, take a short break here. We'll remove our support. Pop off a droid part. I'm going to set this down here for a second. Move these out of the way. So for those of you that were on Chris's stream last night, I got a package. And everybody told me to stop saying I've got packages from KB3D. Just let them know when I don't get a new package from KB3D. But this should have I got some DuPont connectors because we use a lot of the droid builds talk about using DuPont connectors, and he had these on clearance, so I figured why the heck not, and bought one for like $5. But the FDM toolkits, like I said, I picked up 3 of these, and it's basically a collection of parts, but you've got the silicone wiper and the silicone like drip piece, the locking gear drive, the of course Bondtech gears, main shaft, so standard Bondtech-y type stuff. Various magnets, ball bearings, a there's a metal collet and the push-in PTFE piece in there. Your standard Bondtech tensioner. And then this machine, this becomes a critical piece because this is part of the locking mechanism that will lock your tool head onto the carriage. And then, of course, spring steel. This will be used to kind of like we do on the CAN bus cables. You use that to provide strain relief and support your cable chain going to your tool head. So I got 3 of these. More 4-pin connectors. And then this is the panel kit for the Trident. So we're slowly collecting parts for our black box build because he's providing the basic black box, but I'm picking up the tab for all of the FDM tool heads. So and that way I get to select what kind of tool heads, whether I want to use standard Revo high flow, Obsidian high flow, you know, using a, getting a one with the standard bimetallic M6 heat break is also good because then you can swap out any type, like I can do a hardened CHT nozzle. I can do a nozzle X. I can throw an Undertaker in there. I can throw Betas tungsten part, anything that uses a standard V6 threading will work in it. It's water cooling is coming. Well, it's starting to. So, what is it? The Goliath tool head. So the VZBot Goliath, you can get in either an air or water cooled variant. I've seen water cooled variants of either the Dragon or the Rapido has water cooling variant. Luke's Lab, I think it was the Tube that came out with one that I believe has a water cooling capability, or similar, like almost like a radiator type capability, like heat pipe capability. Black box is going to be water cooling. More and more, I think, especially the higher end ones. You have 3 tubes already? Holy crap, didn't they just release those? There you go. One air and 2 that are conductive. And by conductive, they mean you have to mount them to a metal plate like an effector plate that's going to help heat sink and draw the heat off of. Been using them for a couple of months. Okay, so were you test bedding them before they went live? Because I thought they just announced them. Or maybe I'm just behind and didn't hear them announced and just saw the recent posts on Twitter about them. They look really cool, but they also look like they're better suited to bigger, higher volume machine, right? Like you said, they're built like a tank. They're made to really go in beefy production machine, right? You don't want to take them and, I'm going to get a tube and slap it on an ender. It's kind of a waste at that point, right? They're really made be thrown on, I don't want to say necessarily larger machines, but beefier machines that you're going to be running constantly. So speaking of machines and running constantly, while we're chatting here, I'm just going to hit start on right. Yeah. So the Hyper Dragon right here has been printing off of a 3 kilogram roll of PLA, black PLA, and it's come off of its rollers a couple of times, and it's left, the cardboard spool. It's still run it, but it's left some pretty nice burn marks on the drywall, so I will have to repaint that. But we did go and print a big spool holder. This is from S3DP. This will be for the 5 kilograms, and it feels a little squishy, but he did say you can run, I think it's a 6 millimeter threaded rod or a bolt through the spool holder portion to provide some additional support. But yeah, it's pretty beefy. It has slots in the bottom, so if you wall mount it, right, wall mount to a stud, and then you can run your filament down through the legs as a filament guide. But yeah, conductive on a K3 would be awesome. And I didn't even think about that. Somebody is CNCing the party plates, right? I think that is one of the things that you can get out there in a CNC is a CNC party plate. I'm gonna have to look at that for down the road. Yeah, you have a couple. Imagine that. Yeah, Woody. I mean, I am, like I said, I am impressed to all get out with the K3 right now. And like I said, I tuned the extrusion multiplier, pressure advance, and whoops. Come on now. Where did I go? There we go. This is Prilene PCCF, so carbon fiber PC. And it's printing it out beautifully. It's a Rapido 2 ultra high flow setup. Kind of hard to show the black on here, but when they say carbon fiber covers up the layer lines, yeah, carbon fiber covers up layer lines. It's just awesome. And once again, this was on the textured bed. This side almost looks and feels like it's got a little bit of texture to it. But that's just the way that the carbon fiber makes it look when you print with it. They aren't that expensive. Cool. Yes, there is a faux Mia behind me. In fact, I missed my little Mia. I really missed my Mia. Laststone Northprint 3D, and tell them that you sent me. Okay. Northprint 3D, Canadian company. You will be back Monday. Did she go somewhere? Did she take a trip without you? Nice. They got the Annex Engineering Supernova carbon crampon. Okay, good. Ah, the tube. Yeah, I just saw the price on the tube. That, that's an expensive hot end. Like that's not. Yeah, you're definitely not going to throw that on an Inner 3. All right. Well, it looks like I've got a nice new place to go and spend money at. That's Canadian funny money, so it'll be a little bit less. Okay, so we got our Z belts up. We got our A and B belt. We haven't done our tool head yet, but I want to do that. We'll do that on a separate stream. So we've got our belts. We haven't done them because what you'll do is standard Z belt. You'll bring your belt up, bring it back down, kind of like that. So you'll have some excess. You'll zip tie it right here, and then you'll cut off your excess so it's not coming out the side, and that gives you your Z belt and a little bit of excess there. In fact, let's go ahead and do that. And then the next thing, I tell you what, just build printers and you shouldn't ever have to go and actually buy zip ties again. Like for any part of your life. Misses her people. Yeah. Well, we miss her too, Westry. Oops. So I just kind of take a zip tie and get it actually started on itself. And once again, we're just going to take a little bit. We don't want a whole lot. We don't need a whole lot. We're just going to take a little bit, fold it up on itself, hold it down as far as we can, and pull that tight. And then we can cut our belt off. We'll say right there. So it's not coming out past the edge. We'll snip our end off there. And now if we do have to do maintenance, like you'll see me on the 2.4, we can cut this, cut the head off of this, and we'll have a little bit of belt to play with. That's how you basically get a service loop in here on these Z axes. Then I'm just going to get my zip tie started. Grab a little bit of belt and wrap it up on itself. Tighten that zip tie. And then we can trim our zip tie tail and trim our belt just to make sure that it's not past the edge there. And Wester, I know I haven't talked to you in a little bit. How is everything going on your end? I know that there was some more heavy storms over at the farmhouse and stuff. How are the all the animals and the house and all that good stuff doing? And how is your mom doing? Hope she's still doing well. And we did have a link up earlier. I don't have the link handy. So if somebody does have the link to Pezliz's PayPal or her actual stream tip page, feel free to post it. Because for those of you that don't know, Pez had a recent family event, an unforeseen family event, and had to take a flight back to family on short notice. And the airline lost all of her luggage, so she is back home, you know, kind of a short notice expense and stuff. And then also they lost all her luggage and everything. So if anybody's in a position and has a will to help, she's already angry because people have been helping, but so be it. She loves on everybody, so we can do the same back. Like I said, I just don't have her deets handy. So it looks like the next stage where we're at here is going to be the electronics and starting to get things ready on the electronics side of things. Yeah, blame Royal Nomi. Like I said, Pez did a sneaky and got stuff for Royal Nomi. Royal Nomi is repaying the favor. So 012. Now, I don't know if I have anything that looks like that. So that would be PCD or flip. So I've got possibly a few different sets of things here. So we got a couple of different types of Wago connectors. We've got connectors for the Manta board that we'll set up. This looks like a cable chain piece. These will be for our UHP style PSU. This looks like a different style of PSU mount. So that would be why we don't seem to have this style of mount. Kind of interesting, even though that does look like a, huh. What is that? Ah, that's that crazy flip up version. This is also the older version of the manual, so this may be older parts that I do not have because I did not have these printed cable chain ends. Oh, I'm sorry. Wow. Yep, that's just me. I'm going to flip over to full screen here. So I'm looking at these electronics mounts that are listed here, and it shows a completely different mounting solution than what I saw in the files that I pulled up. So I don't know. This is the earlier version of the manual. So I may actually have to there's a mod. Think the house is salvageable. That's good. But what it's showing here is the way that these mounts go in there, besides having a lot of heat sets to put in, you would mount your PSU and it becomes a the ability to flip out the PSU and get to the electronics underneath it. So we may end up doing this. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm at a loss. How about this? How about we do this? How about we take our printer, we're going to put it upside down, and we're just going to kind of do some old school Voron-y stuff real fast. And by old school Voron-y stuff, what I mean is we're going to take some parts and we're just going to lay them on there. Right? So we have a power supply. This is a UHP 224. So you'd have mains on one side and DC on the other. This would go towards the back because your power inlet would be on the back. This would probably mount, stay there. Okay. And then, because I am darn sure that we have different electronics, we're going to have, so we've got our, here, let me do it. Let me turn it this way. Probably a little bit easier. So we'll have our skirts and our power inlet, I believe, is right in the middle on this printer. So we'll have our UHP, one direction or the other. DC is the 2-lug or the 4-lug, and the other side is our 110. So I'll probably mount it similar to this, where my DC is on this side. That means this side I'm going to want as my high voltage. Then we're going to have a Manta M8P. So this is our electronics. And because of that, we'll have a CB1 module down here that acts as our Raspberry Pi. So that slims things down and makes it a little bit easier. We're going to have our 4Z motors. We'll have our A and B motor. And then we shouldn't use the last two because I believe this has a CAN bus board for it. So we'll be doing CAN bus for the tool head. So this will sort of mount and tuck in probably like this. because this will give us the ability to make short runs for our power and keep all of our DC voltage on this side. Our 4 motors will just pop over to here. Our other 2 will come out of our cable chain, and we'll just come up and over to our last 2 for our B&A motors. Our Raspberry Pi will be here. So what else do we have? We'll have TFT display, CB1, so this goes on top of that. Heatsink, PMC 2209 drivers, our EBB CAN board, so this goes on our tool head. DIN rail mount for our SSR, for our heated bed. And once again, that's a high voltage thing, so we'll keep that down here on our 110 side with our load being over there. So we'll sort of be like that. Potentially, we'll have to see, because we'll have to figure out where we're going to put our Wagos to provide our power breakout for the 110. But I think this is kind of going to be the rough layout for our electronics. So we're going to, I'll say, kind of go off script a little bit, because these will be our mounts for here, and then we'll do DIN rails, right? That's how we'll mount these. DIN rails. That going. So screws will go through here into the DIN rails, then that will mount on the DIN rail. So that's kind of going to be our layout. Now it's 8:30. We can start to try and get some of this assembled and put together. But I think we're going to wind up going a bit off script on our cable chain and some of this other stuff, because of the things that come in the Formbot kit. So yeah, and boom, we're out of the manual now. So manual wise, you know, it kind of starts talking about that flip up controller board. Here's the mount or the front skirt piece that would be for the screen. And you'll see that it just kind of dies out. I mean, that's where the manual ends. So we're going to have to do some intuitive guessing for some of this stuff. Okay, yes, please, Royal Nomi, go feed and medicate the old man. He definitely sounded like he needs all the help and support that he can get. Yeah, because this would be mounting a Raspberry Pi to the underside. I'm like not even sure how this would go to make this all sit in there and go. So I think at this point, we're going to be pretty much on our own to figure out how to do our electronics and then skirting and everything. So shouldn't be that hard to figure out, but I do believe we are pretty much on our own at this point. to get this figured out. Which means I'm going to probably reach out to Zombie, Aaron, or those that have gone before and see what they did when they went through and built out their electronics for their kits. Once again, this is Formbot. This is what it came with. Oh, hey, Rodney. Welcome in. This is the kit this is the items that the kit came with. This is kind of what I'll be using to get this thing all buttoned up and working together. So as noted before, we'll kind of just work on getting things onto their mounts, and then we'll bring the printer back up here and we'll start working on getting things laid in here on the printer. We still need to also build our tool head, so we'll do that as well. And I guess I should see, like, does anybody know if Formbot actually has their own build manual for the kits and the stuff that they put in their kits? I don't, I'm not sure. So I'm kind of going off on my own here a little bit. I guess let me take a quick gander at AliExpress and see what I can find there as far as if there was anything noted about the electronics for the Formbot or any other directions. So do that. We'll bring this over here and jump up to Formbot, AliExpress. Downloads. Oh, well. Like they do have some STL files. So let's see if maybe there's a bunch of STLs that I haven't had. Micron series. So yeah, that could be the issue because I just went with the standard Micron parts off the PrinterForAnts page. So maybe there is a bunch of different files here that I need to actually pull down. Screen bracket, screen case, definitely. Aye. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna have to download this and see what I need there. There's all stuff for the Tradoon. I have no idea what the T-Rex is for the Raptor. So it doesn't look like anything user manual wise. Okay, so it does look like there's a few STLs. I will pull those down, see if there's anything different that I need to print out. But for right now, I think it's 8:30. I'm going to get ready to call this an evening. Let me see who are potential raid targets out there that are online right now. I have to go back to regular Twitch. I see Big Jano's online. Way Cool Wood, the Jang. Him, I believe, is probably just printing and streaming his prints. Same thing with Stephen Poole. What's everybody think? Is Big Jano good for this evening? Because I can go ahead and get a raid started for Big Jano. I'm not sure if a bunch of you may already be over there anyhow. So let's get a raid going for Big Jano. So with that, I'm going to sign off for the evening. Thank you, everybody, for being here and going along with this build with me. We got the gantry hung. We got the belts done. We need the tool head, the heated bed, the electronics install. So we're making good progress. I will see you all on Saturday, where we take Fey Dragon down and start tearing that down. But please go with me over to Big Jano. I'll see you over there. Hopefully we get some marble races in. Have a good night, everybody. Bye now.